Hello YouTube, I Fix It All here, Team I Fix It All. This video is brought to you by Palmetto Prepper. Watching some of his videos on survival and prepping and seed collecting and all that. I've got a bunch of seeds here that I'm saving back, but I wanted to talk about something that bothers me when I see people growing a garden and I see their corn. Here it is, probably, oh gosh, what is this, 11th or 12th, 13th of August? Whatever it is, mid-August, 2024. Let me talk about corn for a minute. I have a real small area dedicated to my corn patch. Probably something like maybe 15 by 12, maybe 10 foot by 15 foot. But we always get anywhere from 60 to 70 ears of corn out of it. Let me talk about this for a minute, because I see a lot of people failing at gardening for many reasons, and I was going to make up a bullet list of things I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to hope they all come to me as it goes, and the chickens will be crowing in the background once in a while, so just ignore that. All right, let me get something to point with. Okay, so you have a flat surface in your yard, and let's call that your grade. The happy little sunshine here. And you want to put corn right here. So your automatic thing you want to do is till up the ground. Okay, that's fine. What you want to do is look at this for a minute and realize this left edge here is my grade. That's the grade. And that's the grade. Watch what I do here. I covered this in a previous video in quite detail visually, and we'll take you outside and show you. When you go to lay off your rows for corn, especially in a small concentrated area, of course, till it up. And then lay off your rows really, really deep. I mean, you're tilling like hell to get that ground deeply cut, so that when you lay off rows, you're literally piling up high mounds of earth to get below grade. High mounds of dirt, so that you can dig in and get well below grade. I've got 5 rows out there, and I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you hoe up all the dirt you can to where you're way below grade, then you can, with a tool or whatever you want to do, try a little bit more, maybe with a trowel or something, or a hoe as you drop your seed. Maybe cut the ground a little deeper. Drop your seed. Maybe you'll go along and you'll notch out every 12 or 16 inches and drop 2 or 3 seeds along that row. Again, remember, we're way below grade. And then cover them right inside there, leaving them in that ditch. As the rain falls, these ditches will hold water. And also, your corn will sprout out of these ditches. You're going to have some pretty deep ditches. Usually mine are like 8 or 9 or 10 inches deep. Okay? And I'm trying to illustrate here that a corn sprout has taken root well below grade, reaching some deeper ground for minerals and nutrition. So then when they start sprouting and they get 2 or 3 inches high, maybe 6 inches high, you can now start thinking about what you're going to do later. You could sprinkle very lightly along that ditch fertilizer if you choose. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But what I did was, this is how I do my corn every year now, and I've been successful for quite a few years in a row, and I just want to share this. the corn sprouts, and then it'll get to a certain point where it's probably 15 or 20 inches tall. What I'll do is I'll load this whole ditch up with mulch and fertilizer. Then I will hoe all this dirt up to the corn plants. That gives them like an 8 or 9 or 10 inch worth of structural stability for wind and storms coming in trying to blow them over. Plus, there's two things going on here. I've hoed nutrients up to the stalk of the corn, and I've done something else. The mulch that I put in here is going to get rained on, and it's covered with dirt, and it acts like a water tower to get this plant through hard times when it's dry. Now this year, this year was very, very shy on rainfall so far. I'm sure our water table is low. But remember, this is when your plants are new, and people say knee-high by the 4th of July. My corn was head-high by the 4th of July. So, again, till your garden area you want corn in, and lay off your rows, but you want to go, when you lay them off, you're hoeing below grade, way below grade. Get those corn seeds as deep as you can, but when you cover them, I'm going to back up a little bit. When you cover the seed, don't go very deep if you want it to sprout early. Let's say you got your seed out late. Don't give it too much dirt, maybe 1.5 inches of dirt or so. Give them reason to germinate and sprout through and start taking in photosynthesis early, and get to rocking on growing up. What happens is, now that your plant has gotten up to about 20 or so inches high, you've hoed all that dirt up, and now you've got these high mounds. Your corn root system is way below grade. Your stalk is well supported and all of that. Plus, it's living inside of a previous ditch that has mulch in here. That mulch is acting like a water tower to carry that corn through hard times of moisture. And also, it's secure and has a safety factor built in for windage. Now, what happens next is you'll go through and thin out what you don't want. However, now you've got these deep ditches on either side of your corn. Well, this year I'm going to load up my deep ditches with broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. And I'm going to try to do some fall type harvest, fall stuff, cold veggie stuff. I've given up on trying to grow broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage, and with the idea of getting them out in the spring. I just can't seem to time it right. The bugs and the temperatures change. Let's talk about temperature for a minute. And me talking about gardeners that I see where their corn is only like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 feet tall. And here it is, August. If you tilled your garden up and you laid off your rows and they're kind of shallow, 3 or 4 inches down, your corn's only rooting 3 or 4 inches down. And if you didn't come back and hoe dirt up on those stalks, your roots are able to detect temperature change more easily if the roots are shallow. So there's two things going on. The leaves of any plant and the roots of any plant will determine themselves when they're going to abandon growth because of environmental changes. So what I've done here is I've removed one environmental effect by getting these roots really deep. I am allowing the corn to think that there's less change in temperature, so it's going to signal continued growth. I think a lot of times when I see people with corn that is really short, if you go back and if you go and scratch on the ground, you'll find out just an inch or so down, you're seeing the root system of the corn. That sun is beating on that earth and beating down on 2 or 3 inches of the earth, and it's warm as heck to the point that it's probably killing the ecosystem that the corn is trying to get nutrients from because the temperatures are just too high. But yet when you get the root system deeper, the root system is enjoying a cooler temperature. Plus there's a lively ecosystem in there of parasites and grubworms and worms and whatever else lives in there that this fruit likes to live with. So I don't even know what I meant by that, but your temperature of your roots is critical for most all plants. It will trigger a plant to go bolt on you if your temperature change is erratic. Regulate that. Also, inject mulch in your rows. You've added moisture and a water tower for these plants to get through hard times. Secondary, tertiary, another thing is when it comes to seeds, source your seeds from a company who's on your latitude, or a company that is selling seeds, or a local supplier who is selling seeds for which they are getting seeds from crops that are grown in your zone. I'm zone 6A. And what you want to do is wean yourself off of buying plants and start collecting seeds from your own harvest. Always remembering that you collect your seeds from at least a minimum of 3 samples and store those back. You will have you'll have to familiarize yourself with the phenomenon of gardening that if you do this, you will grow plants that are evolving to your yard, to your climate, to your zip code, right down to your mailbox location, evolving to the growing the environment, the weather, the sunlight, how much sun it gets, how much cool it gets, the night temperatures, the day temperatures. Right here in Monroe County, West Virginia, we just hit like low 50s at night, and I think it really kind of came in and really affected some of my squash. But I wanted to talk about this corn. It's really important. Let's go out and take a look at what I'm talking about. I'm going to be in my corn patch. I've harvested corn off of like half of my stalks, but I didn't rip the stalk out of the ground. What I did was I snipped the stalk off. I didn't want to disturb these high mounds, because now I'm going to be using these low trenches, and I'm going to be taking my garden trial and I'm going to be setting out broccoli in these low trenches, letting them catch on root, and then I'm going to be loading mulch in these trenches, and then hoeing this dirt over to the broccoli, the cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage in these rows. And I'm going to be injecting a water tower inside of these deep grooves here. Let's go take a look-see, and I'll update you on the garden. Walk with me. We kind of feed the chickens scrap stuff, but we've put up a whole lot this year. Let's migrate over here to the corn. I want to try to explain what I'm talking about. We got a lot of weeds going on here, but my corn is very, very tall. My garden hoops are about 7 foot high, and hopefully you can see the difference. Some of that corn is 8, 9, one of them's about 10 foot. The taller corn, I'm going to be drying that out for seed, probably like 3 or 4 ears. But I've got real deep ditches here, which is the electric fence here, but hopefully you can tell the top of my corn is here, but I go way down deep. And I've got a deep trough here. That's because where the corn is living right now, that used to be the really deep ditch. But I've took those mounds and brought them up on each side of the corn. My corn right now is probably 9 or 10 inches down. And that allowed the corn to believe that even though it might be a little bit warm outside, the roots are at a more constant lower temperature, which is helping to control their ability to want to grow up and get tall. And a tall, thick-stalked corn will produce larger ears. And when you count them up, you only count on 1 ear per stalk. Here's an example. So, I mean, there's my hand. There's a mound. But notice I've only cut the corn off at the stalk because I didn't want to disturb the ground, because in this ditch right here, this is where I'm going to be putting my, man, that's really deep. This is where I'm going to be setting my broccoli, in this trough. I'll set it, all my plants, all the way down this, which it's only, I almost stepped on you, Elvis. It's only like maybe 10 foot by 15 foot. And I'll be setting out my broccoli, cauliflower, and so on and so forth in these troughs. I'm going to be setting them out with the corn here. I got to pull these weeds, of course. Okay? But I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. The idea here is that I want to get the starts that I have, which are located right over here. These guys are all my starts for my fall crop. Hopefully they turn out to be something. But I will set them in those troughs. I'll set them out. I'll trial out dirt, set the plant, skip a space, another plant, so on and so forth. And when they get up and settled in and start looking like they're going to become something, I'll go up there with my trailer, my ride mower, and get some mulch. I'll load up that trough with mulch. Then I'll hoe dirt, because by that time this corn will be gone. I'll be harvesting all this corn out. But in the meantime, I'll set them out in these troughs, let them get established. I'll set them out right between the corn. There's going to be some sunlight, but what you want to do is, if you haven't noticed, your broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts, they don't like hardcore sunlight because they'll wilt over and all that. So it's almost acting like a greenhouse sunscreen, so to speak. Leaving the corn here and setting the plants in between the rows. And within about a week or so, maybe 5 or 6 days, I'm going to be harvesting this corn anyway. So that's the idea here, is to build in a water tower into your garden. Add mulch, and also build out your garden in a way to where the root system doesn't trigger your plant to stop growing because the dirt temperature is just getting too high. And for God's sakes, quit growing in these plastic totes. The sun beats on those plastic totes. You have to go out and physically water all the time. And you're killing the ecosystem and the nutrients and all that when dirt's supposed to be alive. Plastic totes work for some things, but I think most people who grow in plastic totes get lucky. We'll go through the garden here. Moving right along. We got grapes that I started here. They're doing good. Random volunteer tomato plant. Late green peppers. I hope they do something. Brittany may have already harvested all my her hot peppers. Yep, there's several in there. Yep, they're still coming on. Then we got jalapenos in here, right there. We've got Patty Pan, and she's harvested several. There's one right there. Several already. Again, these are doing pretty good for being mid-August. There's still several. We got some cherry tomatoes. We've got sweet potatoes up through here on this garden. We didn't have a good onion year. Sweet potatoes are intermingling with this yellow squash. Lots of yellow squash we've already harvested because we've been doing squoodles. Lots of them coming on. Yeah, there's just so many blooms. There's going to be much more coming on. Got a couple of guys in there. Squash. Squash. Lots of squash happening still. Got some of these guys get heavy if they end up growing up. We believe these are cantaloupe, but we just don't know yet. There's a little baby cantaloupe right there. I wasn't targeting cantaloupe. I thought that was vine peach. We've got our eggplant here. Eggplant. I'm not doing too well with keeping bugs off of this, but we're all pesticide free here. All kinds of squash growing. Everything that you see, that white cloth, that's some landscaping fabric acting as a diaper to kind of hold the vegetable up so it's not straining out the plant. Here's the what's that called? Hang on. I had to get technical support. Purslane. You know, there's more squash there. Purslane. It's a weed. But here it is. It's a very beautiful looking plant, but it's an herb. I'm going to be transplanting some of that up to the herb area that I built this year for Britt. More stuff coming on. As soon as these guys, I got to get this one in a diaper and supported to the arches. More purslane. Peanuts. Thank you, Moonchild. Peanuts. 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 Don't know if it'll do anything. Basil. Yep. Doing well so far. We've had a lot harvested. Let's take a look down through there. Everything we see. You're something. I don't know. You're interesting looking. I don't know what you are. This one's Snow White. Not sure what you are. Everything's labeled. It's supposed to be NFL squash going this way. And everything going this way is supposed to be NFL. There's something in here. It looks like a pumpkin. I didn't intend on growing pumpkin in here. I think I had a seed malfunction. I've got to work on that myself. Seed malfunctions are sometimes fun, but they can be annoying. I don't know what this Snow White thing is, but I'll bet you it's just like some of the ones we had last year that stayed Snow White when you cut them open. They were like pumpkin on the inside. Elvis, what are you doing? This god-awful squash here. Woo. Overhead. Isn't it? Excuse me. Isn't it just awesome? Right above your head, you got veggies and fruits. Here's a genuine NFL squash right here for sure. Some yellow squash, zucchini. Some of these beds are going dry because it's just what happens, you know. You get your veggies and fruits as you can get them. I'm going to let that go to seed. That's cabbage. I'm going to let it go to seed and mark it. Yeah, we had some cold temperatures, and it looks like some of these leaves are starting to perk back up again. But I've also been snipping leaves off and throwing them in here to keep the weeds down. Anything you see that has that white splotchiness to it, I'll let that go. But if it looks really bad and it starts to be tanning out or getting light green or has a whole lot of mildewy look to it, I've been snipping the leaves off and throwing them in here. Got a couple of volunteer tomatoes there. Got zucchini, Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts are not growing like that I want them to, but however, they also got pest infected. So this is why I'm going to just totally quit growing all the cold weather, what do you call them? That family of veggie. I'm just going to start growing all of this in the fall. Got Maters, Abe Lincolns, Roma, cherry, and beefsteak. With your tomatoes, I'll just tell you right now, if you just go along your Maters and each leaf system, just cut 50% off. Just to keep the sunlight moving in, but reducing the amount of water that's going to be going to the having this extra foliage is stealing nutrients that could be going to the tomato. And also trim all of your available foliage up the stalk, depending on how tall the plant is, but some of these are like 10 and 12 and 8 foot tall. Cut off the foliage about 12 or so inches up, and eventually some of that lower foliage is going to die off, and it'll help prevent blossom blight, you know, the bottoms of the tomato rotting, you know. So these are creeping over into the next bed. This beautiful sunflower plant. I don't even know how many. I don't know. This is one plant. Look at all the flowers. It just won't stop. RJ, would you just look at that? This one here is probably one of the oldest ones. It was the one that was tracking the sun and tracking the moon. Green peppers. Green peppers are real tall, but I'm always very, very worried when I see my green pepper plants do this, because the next thing I want to see is the blooms. And I'm not seeing a whole hell of a lot of blooms, but I'm not giving up on them yet. But these things are like really almost over 2 feet tall. I know I've got a few peppers setting on, but I don't want to just be all plant and no pepper. More purslane. This is a huge patch of purslane, but believe it or not, it's only like one plant or two. Purslane salad, very good stuff. Karabe or something like that is what this is. That one we can cut here. This is very good. I think we're going to make this a regular thing we grow every year. I'm very happy with this. It's awesome as a coleslaw. More green pepper, carrots, and then I found a carrot yesterday that is pretty darn big in diameter. So I think what I'm going to do is try to audit my carrots. That thing is huge. And try to figure out which ones I'm going to leave in the ground, because you've got to let this carrot die off for the winter and then resprout next spring, and then in the fall it will flower, and then you'll have probably 10,000 seeds on one carrot plant. It's a 2-year thing. Again, tomatoes, you got these extra long systems of branches where there's leaves. You can trim half of that off. That way you're letting sunlight in. As you can see, I'm not choked off completely. Sunlight can get in there. It will be a disinfectant. And it will also help ripen tomatoes more evenly. Moving down here, another carrot patch. We didn't have any parsnips this year. We just failed completely. Here's my new things going on here. I started these, I think it was last week of July, so I got cabbage here. Well, there's 4 groups of things: cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts. Here's my lima beans. These guys are in they're beautiful looking shape. I mean, excellent condition. I mean, this is like a picture book example of what lima beans need to look like. Knock on wood, not a single bug. We did very good this year for peaches and nectarines and pears and blueberries and blackberries and apples, and strawberries didn't do nothing. I had to redo all that. And I got some starts of wineberries. Here's our pole beans. They're growing on a fence upright. And I had a couple of spare seeds of some sort that I put on the end of this, and there's supposed to be a cantaloupe in here somewhere. Yeah, it's in there. Oh, cantaloupe. So that's right next to my corn patch. Here's our Brussels sprouts, which I think next year we can start harvesting from. But I also bought from CZ Grain additional Brussels sprout around the perimeter here to fill in some gaps, and I'm very happy with how they performed. They all just shot right up and did their magic, all the little guys. But the most senior ones are in the middle there. But what to do with all these berries, because from what I understand is the berries are a female plant and the ones without berry is male, and you want to harvest from male. Looks like I got a lot of female, but I would rather do without and have both male and female, because it's natural. You know, you should always have male and female. I don't want to have this Brussels sprout area where it's just all male. I don't understand. In my mind, everything should have a chance to grow. And if I'm in this little part of planet Earth and I'm the only one left with a sample of this, then so be it. But I'm going to let nature take its course. I should collect these berries. And, you know, these berries aren't going to just produce females. There's going to be male and female in there. So I should collect these berries and maybe dump them in the wild somewhere. It would be really neat to just create a patch of those somewhere in the middle of the woods somewhere that gets good sunlight. Babbling, I know. We got a lot of beans put up. These are pole beans. I like the flavor of pole beans. They're just too thick. Hardly manageable. Got a random tomato plant in there too. So we've already been over the corn patch. I've already explained why I've left these high mounds, because those are created because I hoed all that dirt up and I have my corn in these high mounds of earth that's has a mulch embedded. When I built these raised garden beds a couple years ago, 3 years ago, the hierarchy goes like this. These are about 2 foot high. There was a foot of hay that got compressed because I threw in a 12 inches of mulch, and then I put in about 6 or 8 inches of dairy cattle manure, and all that weight's compressing things down. Then I put about 6 or 8 inches of topsoil in. Over a couple of years, that all settled down, so I had to make a phone call and get some topsoil brought in. Well, this fall I'm going to be throwing on a layer of manure and a layer of mulch, agitate that on the top side and let it cook off for the winter. I might even throw turnips in there and let those grow and then decay and add to the nutrient value. But right now these beds have built-in water towers. There's a lot of wood mass that's still decomposing, which will spend a lot of time decomposing in each one of these, and it acts like water towers. It gets your plants through hard times. Got a little bed here, a couple of tomatoes that I just brought over. I'm dinking around with. I've got some planters right here that I'm doing a viability test on my squash to make sure that my yellow smooth, my yellow bumpy, and my patty pan are all viable. So that's why these are sitting here, just to make sure the seeds I have collected are going to produce for me next year. I'm doing round 2 of beets right here. And what is this cloth for? I put in round 2 of beets like 3 weeks ago, and everything popped real fast in like 3 days. And then a couple 3 days later, I noticed all my beets are gone. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? All the tops are gone. Well, I stepped over this electric fence here, and all of a sudden all these grasshoppers started jumping, like that one. Yeah, you know the grasshoppers we're talking about. I'm gonna come see one right now. We're gonna sneak up on one. There goes one. Yeah, there they go. So I think those little bastards were getting in there and just munching the tops off. But right now, I've had this replant in for about 5 days. And looky there. I got a lot of beets up. I hope this shows up. But there's a lot of beets up. And this is letting sun in, letting water in. And as soon as those beets get tall enough to where those 2 little ears of leaves start upgrading to a more robust leaf, I'm going to remove this cloth, because apparently those grasshoppers like those leaves when they're tiny and babies. And then I've got 2 horizontal runs of electric fence right here that's not on, of course, so that when the deer walk along through here and they dip their nose over to eat my tops, they get electrocuted. They are cloven-hooved disciples of the devil. Yeah, I've got the electric fence is not on, obviously, because my grass is high. But I've got 2 simple runs, 2 tiers of electric fence, and it's marked off with a little piece of white tape every so often. The chickens see this and they get used to it, and the chickens won't come in it. Now the cats know the fence is off, so they're hopping in and getting comfortable with it, but here eventually I'm going to have to turn it back on, so I'll have to trim that grass down a little bit. Up here we got some pumpkin, because that's what the little sign says. Then it says acorn with a question mark. Hubbard. We got some Hubbard laying in there. We got some buttercup in here. Got some butternut in here. And butternut. Got a failing cantaloupe. We've got some, I think this is a newer plant of acorn, and I don't think it's going to make it. But I know that this will. This is, well, it says watermelon, but that's because there's only one that made it. And since this older zucchini is starting to die off, which, let me see if that's true. Yeah, there's one big ass zucchini left right here. Oh, there's another one. It's still trying to produce, but look at what the chilly weather did to it. It just kind of killed some of the foliage. I should come up here and do some trim work. There's another zucchini right there. Yeah, there's still zucchini coming on with this. I need to trim some of these leaves up. Now, what's going on with these? I'm going to make a recommendation to people. God, this video is getting too long. When you start your fragile little two-leafy type veggies out, start them out in your ground, but then have your cans cut off. And basically, you have your seeds in there, but you have this can there too. And what they'll do is they'll sprout up, because birds will come along. They like to eat this stuff when they're real tender and little. But as soon as that leaf changes state and starts to get the sawtooth edges on it, the birds won't bother them. So I've already removed the cans off of these because they are maturing and getting taller. This mulch bed has been an interesting little experiment. A lot of your squashes don't like the high temperatures that mulch has a tendency to have, because it's brown and it's holding sun. It's naturally going to hold heat, and a lot of your squashes don't like that attribute. But I've noticed that once those plants get tall enough and they can hold their own, they become very happy with the soil conditions below. So I've been doing this several years now, this mulch bed thing for vegetables, and specifically squash. And it's been working out really well for us. There is one, I don't know what that is. That looks like a cantaloupe of some sort. And the wife dragged me up here yesterday to show me an interesting squash that we didn't understand what it was. It's two-toned. Yeah, this is really weird. This is supposed to be the pumpkin section. And what the hell is this? A half green, half yellow. I don't know. It seems like our squashes are getting really bastardized. I don't know why. And then this whole area here was my potatoes, but since I didn't have enough seed, I didn't have seed potato that was already seeding, I didn't want to do a round 2 of potatoes. And then I've got round 2 of peas going on. And I've got them all trained up, going along this fence here. They're doing pretty good, getting started. So we'll have another round of peas, and I may leave 25% of these behind to dry in the pod and use that for seed, because what did we talk about earlier? Now that it's experienced my climate, well, then it is now a seed that's going to do better and better every year for my climate, for my yard, for my zip code. I moved some cherry trees and a plum tree over that way because they just were getting choked out by sunlight. But that's a pear tree, did real well this year. Then right next to it is another pear tree, and that's peach. That's a nectarine. That's a peach. That's another kind of peach. We've got our herb beds, which are doing good. They're all stair-stepped up. It's a previous video I did. I'm going to be moving purslane up to one of the upper beds. There's the new strawberry patch. It's getting established. We have a ton of figs. I hope that wasp that comes along and stings figs makes it here, stops by our house, because that's how they ripen. You need that wasp. I forget what that is. Cilantro. Yeah. I think this is mint. I get the two confused. That looks dead. Dead. And this is, oh gosh, I forget what it is. It's another herb. Here's my wow, this here wow. So my wine berries are doing really good. These are plants that I got off of a lady here nearby, but this one is doing really good. I've got to get him out of there and out to here, because my intent is to have the wine berries here and then expand my covered area for berries up another stall or two. Get that handled. But I've been working on getting the sumac mined out, because there used to be a big sumac tree right inside that hollow pine tree stump, because before the sumac there was a big pine tree. I kind of like doing that. If I have a tree I cut down that's hollow, I want to put another tree inside it. It kind of looks cool for many years. Similar to this over here, which if you backpedal some of my videos, you'll find out all you need to know about sumac and how yummy it is. The downside of sumac is it'll produce babies all the way out in your yard, because it's a colony. This used to be an old pine tree stump right through here. But when a friend of mine came and cut it down, I was very surprised to find out it was hollow in the middle. And it's only like 30 foot off of my house. That would have sucked. The chickens are mining up artifacts everywhere. They're producing bottles in the woods. So I'm strategically placing random useless bottles in different places in the yard. Alright, so that's way too long for a video. But seeds. Save your seeds that you were able to save. Always use for the rule of three. Pick three samples from one species and save back those seeds, and start your plants from seed the next year from those seeds, and every year they'll become more resilient to your climate and your pests. And also think about the idea of building in a water tower in your garden. I used hardly any water this year to keep the garden pacified till the next storm comes. We went from like early May through June, all of May, all of June, and most all of July. We only had like one or two decent rainstorms. And I watered out here a little bit, not hardcore watering, but a little bit, because I was just worried. But I bet if I took my moisture detector and went around the garden, I would have found out I didn't need any water. But everything's fat, dumb, and happy. The garden's still producing. I don't think I forgot anything. The idea of gardening is to try to figure out a way to make it to where it's not work on you. Not a lot of work. There's going to be some work. But what makes me feel really bad is when I drive by and I see someone's put in labor time into a garden, effort, heart, sweat. blood and tears, only to have everything just falling apart. And most of those casualties that I see of gardens could be prevented if we, and it's due to lack of rainfall, you know. Well, there's been no rain. My garden's doing terrible. It's been so bad. There's just been no rain. Build in the water tower into your garden. If you've got raised garden beds, make it a goal this fall when it gets cold or it gets chilly out. You can go out and do the work, and you're not going to sweat hard because it's going to be, you know, cooler outside. Put in the effort to put in that mulch. And I don't want you to go buy mulch. Try to find a tree trim company who is doing work or along power lines or something, or where they need to get rid of mulch, and they'll probably generally give it to you for nothing. Use that mulch to integrate it into your soil. Get it into your garden. Get it deep, till it into your garden. Make it a part of your ecosystem. And then also this fall, go down to your store, gas station, whatever, and get night crawlers. Start throwing night crawlers in your garden too. You want your garden to be alive with pesties and bugs and things like that. You really do. Okay? And you can mitigate the bugs you don't want, but you need a soil that's alive. If you have a tote, a plastic tote, and you're trying to grow veggies in it, you're always watering it. You have a dirt system that's not alive. It doesn't have a lot of live bacteria. The dirt temperature is too high. Soil temperature is critical. And getting your root system down to a depth where the roots thinks that everything's okay, your leaves will be signaling the plant, and your roots will be signaling the plant to tell it when to bolt or when to just stop growing. But if the roots say everything is fine, then it'll try to push along that plant to be more mature, even though the temperatures aren't exactly optimum. If those roots are chilly or those roots are cooler, your plant will thrive better. Plus, it'll contribute to its evolutionary adjustments to produce a seed for you that's going to be stronger the next year. Guys, I've babbled on too much here, but props goes to Palmetto Prepper and old school prepper, I believe. His channel is really informative and all over the map, just like mine, but he doesn't take an hour to say things. Sorry, guys. But you guys have a great rest of your day, and hope I didn't forget anything, but if I do, I will be sure to bring it back to you. See ya. Bye.